After disincarnation, the spirit of the deceased can still be deeply affected by the energies and vibrations emitted during the wake. Even if the spirit has already reached a state of spiritual rest, often in a higher plane, it remains vulnerable to the influences of the living, especially in moments like the wake. During this period, the spirit is still connected, in some way, to the physical body, in a state of semi-consciousness, that is, it is aware enough to perceive what happens around it, but still has difficulty fully adjusting to its new spiritual reality. What it perceives can be confusing and painful, and the conversations of those nearby can have a profound impact on its emotional and psychological state. During the wake, people, even unconsciously, tend to talk about the life of the deceased with little consideration for their weaknesses or flaws. The conversations frequently address negative aspects of the deceased's life, such as past mistakes, financial difficulties, family disputes, and even moral failings, which are exposed in an insensitive manner. In many cases, the conversations become true moral autopsies, where private aspects of the deceased's life are discussed with no respect for their dignity or the state of vulnerability in which the spirit finds itself during this transitional moment. This behavior is often unconscious on the part of the living, who do not perceive that such discussions not only affect those present but also the spirit of the deceased. The spirit, still in the process of adapting to the spiritual world, feels assaulted and disturbed, being forced to relive painful situations and emotions from its earthly life. These negative vibrations are intensified by the fact that, during disincarnation, the spirit is in a state of fragility. It can be compared to a convalescent who, after a long illness, still lacks the strength to deal with the new reality. Likewise, the disincarnate spirit still carries with it impressions from its past life, including regrets, remorse, and unresolved feelings. When the living dwell on the mistakes, failures, and difficulties of the deceased, it causes a very strong emotional impact, further aggravating the adaptation process. The spirit is not prepared to relive these moments so vividly, and often finds itself forced to relive its past, which can delay the process of liberation and transition to a higher spiritual plane. To avoid causing more suffering to the spirit during the wake, it is essential that those present adopt a more respectful and conscious attitude. Instead of focusing on the negative aspects of the deceased's life, conversations should focus on positive memories and feelings of affection and gratitude. The wake should be seen as an opportunity to offer the spirit of the deceased a dignified and serene farewell, with prayers and elevated thoughts that can help it free itself from the bonds of the physical plane and follow in peace. It is important to remember that the mental vibration of the living can profoundly affect the disincarnate spirit, and that thoughts of companionship, prayer, and loss are essential to creating an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. During the wake, any kind of demeaning comments or attempts to remember past faults or mistakes should be avoided. These moments of judgment, even if unintentional, can aggravate the suffering of the spirit, which is already dealing with the painful process of leaving the physical body and facing the consequences of its earthly life. Instead, it is ideal for those present to focus on prayers, meditations, and thoughts of spiritual elevation. The wake should be a space of respect, where the deceased, now in another dimension, can feel welcomed and protected by the loving vibrations and the peace of those who remain in the physical plane. You must always remember that the death of the physical body is not an end, but only a transition to a new stage of spiritual evolution. For this reason, the wake should not be seen as an opportunity to discuss the deceased's personal life in an indiscreet or invasive manner, but as a sacred moment of reflection, prayer, and support for the departing spirit. Friends and family have the opportunity to help the deceased detach from the dense energy of the physical body and assist in the transition to spiritual life with dignity and serenity. An ideal posture during the wake is, therefore, one of silent, reflective, and pious attitude. Prayer, thoughts of loss, and gestures of affection are the best ways to assist the spirit in its transition process. Irrelevant conversations or those that bring up negative aspects of the deceased's life only increase the spirit's difficulties, making its spiritual journey heavier. Therefore, when faced with the death of a loved one, the main recommendation is to act with respect, love, and understanding, creating an atmosphere of light and serenity that helps the spirit detach from the material plane and follow in peace on its spiritual journey. If this video moved you and you want to learn more about how to spiritually help those who have passed away, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to leave a like. Your subscription and support help our work grow and provide more educational content.